If you had to save your life from a coven of vampires, would you pick a book by the Pillow Guy or Billy Mays?
Let's find out.
Viewer discretion advised and strongly encouraged. Discretion is the better form of valor, and encouragement is like peer pressure, but for good things.
All right, welcome back, beer brains and movie maniacs. It's that time again. You are tuned into the feature presentation on Beer Me That Movie, where we take one of last week's top tier Fast Five ideas and turn it into a full-blown film adventure.
That's right. We're diving in and fleshing out characters, building worlds, adding drama, and sprinkling just enough or sometimes too much nonsense to keep things, well, exactly the way that you like it.
Which means, if you like what we're doing here, go give us a follow on social media. It's the best way to keep up with the episodes, submit your favorite beer names, and just say, hey.
Which is always nice to do. And by the way, just a reminder, we don't do ads here, so you don't have to worry about skipping ahead. Just good stuff, pure, unfiltered nonsense, and maybe an Instagram comment on one of Harrison's beautiful posts.
So grab your popcorn, maybe some leftovers, pour yourself a pint, and prepare for the beer-inspired blockbuster you didn't know you needed. It's time for this week's feature presentation, Second Dinner.
And now get ready for our feature film.
And away we go, John.
I'm excited about this one, mainly because I'm really hungry.
I know it is tough. I don't know what it is about the simple human brain or whatever. When I talk about food, I'm instantly like, oh, I'm starving now for some reason.
I wish I could do that for other stuff. Like, oh man, I need to wind up the hose after I use it.
Right. All I want to do is wind up the hose and
Put
clean up the
clothes
house.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't
right.
have the same effect.
Love laundry. Yeah, I think it's just the food. We're controlled by our intestines. That's no lie. Okay, so Second Dinner. This one, we had a lot of good ones last week, I think. But as we did this one in the Fast Five, I felt like, all right, there's a story here. There's something fun. We haven't done something like this in a little bit. Maybe since like Motivations of the Heart, that had a lot of that kind of chase, that feeling of like, oh my gosh, which I think is what we're going to discover tonight.
I remember that, the houseboat.
A lot of houseboat stuff. A lot of houseboats in these movies. We haven't done a houseboat in a little bit. It's about time. We'll see what happens tonight.
1 out of every 20. This is our 20th feature film, and it was checked in by an Untapped user who goes by Trash. And if Untapped had influencers, Trash would be among the top 1%.
Easily.
I was telling Harrison I actually met him once. I was bartending.
Which is, no one knows who he is. He's a ghost. He's a legend on Untapped, but a ghost in the real world. So
I couldn't even describe him.
Right, he's kind of a mystic character.
He came into the bar. It was a tap room for a brewery, and he's ordering beers that were like, you know, like you have to know what you're doing to order these beers. Right. I don't want to sound pretentious, but he was ordering from the bottle list, and he was asking questions about how our sours were made.
It's the real deal.
And I was like, man, you really sound like you know what you're talking about. And the woman he was with was like, oh my God, you should see him on Untapped. He's got so many friends that can't go anywhere. Like people talk about him. They follow where he checks in. And I was like, oh, I use Untapped. I'm pretty familiar with it. What's your username? I'll add you as a friend. And he was like, I go by Trash. And my face dropped. Out here I am, 40 plus years old.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, you're Trash.
Exactly. Like walking into Matt Damon at an airport bar. I know you. You're Jason Bourne.
Exactly. So anyways, that was my experience with Trash. I couldn't tell you what he looks like. I know he drinks good beer. He's active on Untapped, and he gave us Second Dinner.
Yes, we thank him for that. And we're going to go weave a story, as we always do, around this great beer from Maine Beer Co., by the way, that all they do, even though they make 7 beers, they're all amazing. So we'll see if we can do this one justice. So, all right. Quick kind of recap for those that didn't tune in last week. First of all, go check that out. But if you didn't, I think kind of where we got to was Second Dinner, maybe without revealing too much. Second Dinner isn't what it seems to be. We're going to start with a Thanksgiving style dinner, a holiday style dinner at a big mansion. We're going to throw Trash, as is tradition. He'll be the lead tonight, and his new wife into this setting as he's visiting his in-laws. and they're pretty well to do. They're having this wild, nice holiday dinner, but second dinner that's offered up afterwards isn't something that's appetizing for everyone. And we're gonna flesh out what that means right now and start with a little bit of exposition. But I think we should jump right into this with Act 1 and throw them right on the doorsteps of this house. Well, let's start that, John. Let's jump into Act 1.
Let's kick this off with Act 1.
Beautiful. So Act 1, I always like a little bit of a scene setting. And here I think we're dealing with kind of a smaller, it's not like even a small town or a city or anything. Yeah. This is probably going to take place in, we have a newly married couple.
Yes.
Trash is going to be the husband here, and his wife is going to be Jane.
That's good.
So Trash and Jane have got together, and they're going to Jane's parents' house to celebrate Thanksgiving in their grand mansion. And it's a little like Trash, like so many of us, is like an average guy, drinks his beer, he eats his sandwiches up for dinner, and eats them cold for second dinner.
Yeah.
This is a formal setting where Jane actually says, she's like, make sure you bring a suit for dinner.
Right.
Like it's formal service. If you have any questions, just whisper to me, but you'll be fine. Like everybody's excited to meet you.
I like that. And I think, yeah, right. Like that, maybe that's the conversation they kind of have. I guess if he's getting a suit on, like the day before, they're in the car driving up to this place. I kind of want this movie to start like right at the beginning. So not a lot of backstory. We don't know a lot about Trash or Jane. We learn a few things about them in the car ride up. Clearly Trash is nervous, which is natural, meeting the in-laws, first big holiday dinner with them. And for Jane, maybe she's also a little bit nervous, which maybe makes Trash kind of curious about like, they're your parents. What are you so worried about? And she laughs it off. And maybe without even realizing it, before she could stop herself, says something to the effect of like, I love you so much. I'm so happy that we found each other. Just kind of gets a little soapy and almost out of nowhere, but maybe Trash chalks it up to like the holidays and emotions and whatever. Says something to the effect of like, yeah, I'm happy to be going here too. And maybe as the audience, we see Jane singing to her seat a little bit as they pull up to this huge mansion. Instead of being like, yeah, happy weekend.
Playing Hooked on a Feeling on the car ride into town.
Okay, perfect.
But I like the exposition. We don't really know either of these people, but we get a feeling that Trash is a little bit apprehensive about meeting the he's met the parents, they got married, but like meeting the family at this big mansion for Thanksgiving formal dinner. Are they even going to put the football game on?
Right, exactly.
Do they even have a TV? Like what type of formal are we talking about?
They're so rich they probably don't even care about football.
And Jane, exactly. They're evolved beyond football cares. And Jane at the same point is like, I just like, I haven't felt this way about someone in like such a long time.
Right. She really emphasizes that, the length of her longing or her whatever lack of happiness. But Chat's just chuckling along like, yeah, great. I hope this suit doesn't look too wrinkled.
Hopefully your dad laughs at my jokes.
Right. Exactly. We've got a lot of really blue ones. Okay.
I brought a special surprise too.
Oh, all right.
I was up last night and I made my famous garlicky blue cheese potatoes. And Jane's like, oh God, they're gonna hate you.
Right. Oh, don't worry. I'll cover my mouth when I talk. I know it sometimes stink like garlic, but that's just who I am. I'm dry. Garlic, other smells. Okay. So, all right, cool. So we get there. And they walk into this, and I'm again picturing like a huge mansion. Maybe there's gargoyles on some of the peaks. It's not a Mick mansion. It's
like a Gothic mansion, like an old Vanderbilt estate sort of thing.
Yes.
Maybe they are, and not that it matters, but they're out in like Providence and Rhode Island somewhere.
That's what I'm
whatever.
Saying. Somewhere like a drive from like either Boston or New York. Old money, clearly ancient house. Very intense, right? Gothic, dark, gargoyles, 100 chimneys.
Did you read the wine cliff notes I told you to read?
Exactly,
don't just ask for sweet wine, okay, honey? These are
right. Don't just swirl the glass and say, it tastes meaty, like you
Let
always
it breathe.
do.
Yeah, these are Barolo people.
They've seen some things. A lot of them have been there when these wineries opened. Aren't these wineries 100 years old? Well, like open,
the family's
like,
old. The family's
old. The family. Okay, got it. They like wine. I can drink wine. All right. So this is great.
Leave the beer in the car.
Right. I'll just drink them on the way. I'll just drink beer in the car, wine at the table. Got it, dear. Trash is just living it up. He has no idea what he's about to walk into, but that's what makes this fun. And yeah, so again, intense house. They get there. He walks out. He's a little overwhelmed again by the size of the house. Immediately greeted by the family. And they're, to put it lightly, probably a bunch of oddballs. I'm imagining a lot of characters here, John, for this.
Oh, yeah.
This big night.
I almost think that it would be the help that opens the door,
sure.
and there's an
That's
opportunity
good.
for Trash to be like, "Oh, I don't think I saw you at the wedding," and
right.
he's like, "I'm Joffrey. I'm a servant here.
Right.
The family will meet you in the great room.
Perfect.
And let me take your things." And Trash is like, "But I brought." He's like, "I'll put your side dish with the others, and I'll deliver your things to your room. Please go say hello to the family." Walking in, and they're all probably sitting around as you would imagine uber wealthy people doing. There's like a piano in this room. It's just 12, 13-foot ceilings, tile, marble everywhere. A gold statue, perhaps, of something or other. And the family probably ignites when this young couple walks in. Of course, everybody's happy to see Jane, but really excited to meet Trash. A lot like Uncle Victor and Aunt Dottie are like your kind of rambunctious, artsy aunt and uncle.
Okay. Yes.
Always
like
a quip, always something to say. Aunt Dottie might be a little handsy.
She definitely is. She is. We covered that in the Fast Five. It's going to be Aunt Dottie who's reaching up Trash's shirt and feeling around whenever she gets a chance.
Yeah, and she's not the hot Aunt Dottie you think of if you've been on Pornhub in the last 5 years. Aunt Dottie is who you think of if you imagine being in a laundromat right now. Whoever you see, that's what Aunt Dottie looks like.
You smell Marlboros and then you turn around and see the person that the smell is emanating from. I got it. She's got doesn't have curlers in now, but she's definitely slept in curlers last night.
Yes. I wash other clothes, not these clothes.
You smell Aunt Dottie before you see her. I can see that. Okay, cool. So not the aunt you went getting a little curious with your nether regions, but nonetheless. Beggars can't be choosers, or I guess Trash just overwhelmed with the situation.
Here for a good time.
Right, maybe not a long time. We're going to find out. Okay, and right, so there's, but I agree. Everyone's excited, happy to see them. Lots of hugs, long embraces. Did someone smell Trash's hair? Are they all smelling Trash when he comes in?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Smells so youthful.
Right. So young. I can almost hear your
I use
blood.
Crew conditioner and pomade. Thanks for picking up on that. Except for Mom. Mom's very Mom's
hangs back maybe.
Yeah, Mom's to herself a little bit. Mm-hmm. You would think if you're Trash, you'd probably think Mom's a little judgy.
Right.
If you have any sort of like self-conscious, you're thinking like, oh yeah, Mom hates me. She thinks Jane could have done better.
Of course.
She's on him about like, oh, sweetheart, you left your outside shoes on and this is white carpet. This is cashmere carpet. Right. Please put on a set of slipping loafers.
Yep.
So Mom's a little bit tough. Dad's probably kind of stoic, like as you would expect. Thanksgiving Dad, he's mainly just wants to be left alone. Exactly right. Hates all these people
wants
here.
To be smoking a pipe and drinking more whiskey, which he'll do that anyway. But looking to get half in the bag.
Trash, nice to see you again.
Exactly right.
I take it your drive was acceptable. Yeah, thanks, Edmund.
As acceptable as a drive can be.
Nothing terrible happened. Easy drive. You got a great house coming in here. The whole road in was really good. Yeah,
all the roads were great as usual, as expected. Right, Trash is faking it till he makes it. This is very much an Aladdin pretending to be a prince type situation. Because he's kind of fallen into a gold mine. But again, lots of family secrets, and that's maybe been alluded to by Jane of like, big part of this dinner isn't just the holiday, but like, we want to share a lot of our history with you and maybe even more. Maybe that's a flashback we see later, but we get that tidbit. at some point. So Trash is kind of excited, nervous, curious, all those things. And then, but I think as we shift from the great room or whatever into the dining room, and dinner is served. Again, the help comes out, and what is it, Godfrey? Froderick? What was his name?
Joffrey? Think Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Got it. I see him now.
Joffrey.
Of course.
It could exactly be Joffrey. Really would be perfect.
That would be amazing. Got a different gig.
Pulling out the ladies' chairs and,
of course.
like you see him like taking the spots off of the wine glasses and stuff. This family loves wine.
Loves wine.
Like maybe they own a couple of vineyards. I don't know, but
they definitely do have their own brand that they guard very carefully. And dinner's served, and it's the usual stuff. And Trash is pumped. Been a long drive. He's probably just ready to eat a little bit.
Who wouldn't be
nervous? Maybe a nervous eater. He's just ready.
So far, I would trade places with Trash because there's about to be some turkey and stuffing on the table.
That's all I can think about now. And so, but I think dinner is going well. Everyone's laughing, exchanging stories, pleasantries, and maybe that, the wine's flowing. Maybe Trash notices that, like, the label on the one that Joffrey gives me is different than what you guys have. Can I try some of that? Maybe later. Please.
This is a special vintage. Perhaps you may have the veins for it to flow through. Perhaps you have nice open veins for this wine to permeate or taste buds.
Uncle Victor here. Sounds like an Uncle Victor.
Yeah, definitely. That's Dottie's husband. Right. He's maybe he's just a creepy old. He's an Uncle Victor.
Classic Uncle Victor. Yes. So, but again, things are generally going well. Drinking wine, having fun, eating tons of food, lots of laughs. Maybe the only one offbeat moment of the evening is when Aunt Dottie reaches for Trash's casserole with extra garlic and blue cheese and mashed potatoes, and is excited to share it with everyone. Reaches for it, and as she reaches it and opens the top, immediately her and everyone else around her lets out an audible "Oh no!" or "What is that?" or "Who did this?" And they cover it up, and the help, who's always standing kind of off to the sides in the shadows of the room, perk up. Joffrey runs in, scoops it up, and Dottie's like, "Get out of here! Get that out of here immediately!" And Trash is like, "Whoa, what the heck?"
I know not everyone likes blue cheese, but right? you can barely taste it.
Give it a try. With all the garlic, you can't taste the blue cheese. Is someone lactose intolerant? And maybe Victor or Jane's dad or Jane jumps in and rides that train. Yes, but it's definitely the blue cheese. Got to be careful with the dairy around here.
We just like
old intestines.
Everything cooked here on the premise
right.
by Joffrey's chef is very capable.
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry that you went out of your way.
Right, we have some family dietary restrictions. Joffrey knows what's best for us.
Yeah, and lots of I'd imagine semi-condescending, "Oh, Trash, tell me what is it you do for a living again?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I work at a really popular brewery. I deliver their beer all over town. People love it. They can't get enough of it."
Right.
"Oh yes, what a marvelously cute little occupation you've made for yourself.
Job. It must keep you strong, lifting all those heavy boxes all day. Love a delivery man." Right. Okay. Interesting. Thanks for
so does Jane, I guess. Right. Yeah. Let's change the subject. That's getting weird, Aunt Dottie.
Right. Exactly. The wine is definitely getting to Aunt Dottie. But again, in general, dinner's fine. Trash is definitely audibly bummed out to Jane about what happened with my mashed potatoes. I love those things. That's one of my favorite things from childhood. I didn't even get a scoop of them tonight. And she's like, "Can we stop talking about the mashed potatoes? Everything went well. The hard part's over. We hang out tomorrow morning for a little bit, have some brunch. Then we can get out of here and get back to the city." And maybe Trash is like, "What do you mean? We can stay all weekend? I'm having fun. Everyone seems to be going so well. Why in such a rush to get back? Like this place is great. I want you to show me your house. You grew up here. I want to see what you got to show me. I want to learn more about you and your family." And Jane is maybe visibly kind of agitated about this. But the night seems to be winding down. It's getting later. And so this is about that point where we'll jump into Act 2, John, and see what happens next. Get to that second dinner.
Act 2. Now it gets weird.
Love it. Act 2 brings about a little bit of change from what we've seen here in Act 1. Perhaps fades out with Uncle Victor sharing an incredibly rare cigar with Trash, like something that, like an authentic Cuban rolled by Castro's hands or something.
There we go.
And he's like, "Oh my gosh, how," they're like laughing, and then it kind of fades into this Act 2, which begins halfway through the cigar, small talk, banter, wine rolling around, and Joffrey announces that we will begin second dinner shortly. Please assure you are prepared. Which I imagine any human male perks right up at the thought of second dinner after half a cigar.
Right. Cigar, maybe some brandy's happening. Definitely looking forward to some sandwiches. Get some sweet potato casserole in there when no one's looking. Just sneak it in between the cranberry and the stuff into the turkey.
If you put it in a sandwich, it's just one sandwich.
Just one sandwich. No rules. As long as in between the two pieces of bread, anything can go in between those two pieces of bread. It's still just a sandwich. Calories don't count. All right, this is great. So, but and maybe Trash is kind of like following the crowd, and Jane just like pulls him aside and is like, "I'm done for the night. Like, let's go in. We've had plenty to eat, definitely plenty to drink. Like, you're going to wake up tomorrow and wish you'd never been born if you go in there and keep drinking and keep eating." And maybe Trash is a little bit resistant, but at the same time, like Jane maybe grabs him and embraces him and they start making out or whatever. And he's like, "All right, I got a great reason to go to bed. Like, I'll see you guys later.
I might be down for third dinner.
I'm having my second dinner. I may see him for dessert. We'll see how tired I am in a little bit. And if I'm still awake." So Jane successfully scoots him away from second dinner. They go upstairs, ready for bed, and he enters what should be an all-night-long turkey dinner coma, but fate has other plans. So what kind of happens next, John? Is the second dinner's getting ready to start, but Trash is already upstairs. What's happening?
Yeah, so Trash and Jane go through the typical nuptials. He's like, "All right, I'm pretty excited about how you pulled me away from that second dinner." And she's like, "Me too. I am so exhausted. Let's get into our comfies and go right to bed." And Trash is like, "The Wi-Fi here, I didn't get the code. The internet sucks. I can't play my games." She's like, "Just lay down with me. Relax. The bed's really comfy. These are cotton pillows. And before you know it, it'll be morning and we'll be eating the best breakfast you've ever had. I promise. The eggs are, we have eggs grown right in the backyard. It's going to be great." So he kind of he cuddles up with Jane for a while, checks his phone a few times, can't get anything. And then he starts Jane's, I believe the term is assed out, and not ass out.
Right.
But assed out.
Important to clarify.
Just like passed out, but you drop the P and it means you're extra passed out somehow.
She had a lot to eat too, and probably a lot to drink. She was a bit nervous about the whole night, and you were not quite sure why yet, but definitely indulged in some wine.
Yeah, maybe even she says something like, just like, I'm just really excited that you're gonna stay here with me and we can eat breakfast together. It's just nice having you hold me and sleep and in the bed I grew up in. It just feels very comfortable. Thanks so much, Trash, for coming along.
Yeah, but do me a favor. If you have to get middle of the night, we got a bathroom in this room. You don't need to go downstairs. I know my family is Illyrian, and before you know it, it'll be morning and I'll be the one driving home and you'll be throwing up out the side of the car. So let's not let that happen.
Sounds like a great time to Trash. And I think he replays some of the moments where he's like, "No, Dad liked me. Mom doesn't seem like she likes anyone. Uncle Victor was actually pretty cool. He's got a lot of old stories. I don't know how he knows. He's like a history buff."
Yeah, it's like he felt like he was there.
I mean, Aunt Dottie, she might get a little bit handsy, but I don't think anything's going to happen. She's here with Uncle Victor, and that'd be okay. So I think he's able to convince himself that he can slink away, with the idea being I'm just going to go to the bathroom. And then he gets out of bed and he looks at the bathroom and he looks at the doorway to the house.
It could be as simple as he goes to the bathroom and it's like not flushed, no toilet paper. And he's like, well, guess I'm going downstairs. A little bit of number 2 and then a little bit more for food and
number 2 dinner.
1. Right. Immediately goes on he finds an excuse to go on a mini adventure for food, which I do 9 times a day.
Yeah.
So I get it.
And it's so he checks the door, opens, no creaks, shuts the door behind him, nice and like felt like you're a teenager going to visit your girlfriend. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm at your family's house.
Right.
They didn't have any Febreze here, and I don't know how bad this is going to be, so I'm just going to take it to a different bathroom.
A lot of brandy and wine and turkey.
And then he hears the commotion. The second dinner is still going on. He might even just be thinking he's going to sneak down and make a little cold sandwich, but they're still up. They're talking. There's a lot of stories and laughs being shared. And I think that's enough to just kind of like get him to say, all right, let me just peek my head down the stairs. It still sounds fun. Yep. Take a couple of steps.
Laughing. Aunt Dottie's.
I haven't done anything wrong yet.
Right. I like this. So he's sneaking down and
then maybe even here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Good old Aunt Dottie. Like, oh, I still wish Trash would have been here.
Right.
It'd be so, and that's enough for him to say like, I got to do this.
Gotta make an entrance right now. Gotta make a splash. And this is amazing. So I'm kind of imagining where like he thinks he's gonna like knock the doors open to the dining hall and be like, the party's back, everybody. Hand me that next cigar. What are we eating? That's his plan, at least. But when he opens the door, seeing people sitting around eating sandwiches and maybe drinking brandy and enjoying some cigars, that is not the scene, John. This is a different kind of dinner. This is nothing Martha Stewart knows anything about. There are no leftovers happening.
It's French food.
This is something that Trash is not mentally or physically prepared for, that he stumbles upon. And what does it look like? Like, what are we seeing in this moment as he goes in and learns the truth about this family he's married into?
Yeah, so when he comes back into the formal dining room, it's like a cascade of information. The first thing he sees is Joffrey, his watchful, silent eyes off in the shadow, making sure everybody's safe. Then he realizes that everyone's kind of dressed down and a little less formal. Then he realizes, like, one of those people that was eating dinner with us, I think it was like cousin Marvin's girlfriend or something, is on the table naked.
Whoa.
Like laid down on the table naked. He's like, oh my God, she was right. Aunt Dottie is going to molest me tonight. Until he sees Aunt Dottie pick her face up from Marvin's girlfriend's thigh, dripping blood down her face, and exclaim, "Trash is here!" To which he's just like ghost white now, I'd
ghost
imagine.
White. The poop he was holding on to might be filling his pants. A lot of fair poops in Beer Me That movie. That's not entirely important though. Right, he sees this, and right, like you're saying, it's like an information overload almost. It's like maybe there's so this girl's on the table still alive, but people like Aunt Dottie's bitten her leg. Joffrey's in the shadows. Maybe like Jane's dad and mom are in the corner as well doing something. Victor's there, maybe passed out at the table, but also covered in blood, and like maybe and then maybe he has that moment of like, what's happening? What are you guys doing here? And he's kind of piecing stuff together. He sees the wine and it's spilled, and it looks the same as the blood that's on their faces.
Someone's holding their wine cup underneath her, like blood dripping hand.
Exactly. Yes, catching some blood out of this poor woman's leg. And then maybe Jane's mom and dad turn around and go, "Oh, I thought you'd be asleep with Jane tonight and wouldn't be joining us." And like their faces are like contorted, fangs out. And he learns in that moment, like, oh my God, number one, vampires are real. Number two, I'm in a room with vampires. Number three,
worst way to realize it.
I'm about to die unless I do something. Is his initial reaction. And I imagine this scene, he probably doesn't need to do much in that room. He can probably just, kind of slowly back away. And I imagine they, are, probably maybe trying to convince him to stay. Maybe some funny exchanges go down. But yeah, like obviously Trash's plan is like, let me get the hell out of here right now. I got to grab Jane. We got to get the heck out of here. Get to the car. Where are the keys? Can I even trust Joffrey? Does he have my keys?
True. And then at that point, he probably realizes Joffrey is also holding one of the other cousin's boyfriends.
Okay, got it.
I can't remember his name, but he was really quiet at dinner, and I see Joffrey holding him like the second course for the second dinner.
There we go. Right. And that guy's kind of slumping down, looks half awake, maybe sedated. And so, Trash also has that moment of like, oh man, this girl on the table, this dude in the corner, we had a blast laughing and talking all night. Are they about to get eaten? There's a lot going on. He's processing that again. Vampires are real. He might be about to get eaten. Other people are getting eaten. What is he going to do about this? But the survival instinct kicks in, and maybe we hear, again, some of the family members trying to entice him to stay, calm him down. Everyone does this. But it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, I think
Take a
even
seat.
Dad would say like, "Oh, don't worry, you're not on the menu tonight. You're blood. Tonight you become one of us."
Oh,
as if to try and sell him on the idea that like, don't worry, we're not going to eat you. We're going to make you one of us.
Turn you into a vampire, which has who knows how many side effects and things tied to it.
It's just like a flu shot,
right? I
Only
like this.
forever.
Oh my gosh! And I think Trash makes that executive decision in the moment of like, nah, I'm out. I got to go grab Jane. And maybe it's got to be his first thought is like, my wife is also in this house with vampires. Probably doesn't even have a minute to pause and think like, maybe she is one, maybe she isn't. It's just, I'm in a room with vampires. I gotta get the hell out. I'll try to save these other people in a minute, but I gotta roll. And so I see him kind of like jetting off up to his room and, again, trying to grab Jane, and they'll make their escape, and Jane's gone, not there. And now he's just in a room that's basically a dead end with a family of vampires kind of slowly. And I kind of am imagining like they're not chasing him yet. They're probably just slowly walking up the stairs. Maybe, Patricia's like, I knew he'd run. If Jane would just help out, like this would be much easier. Why do they always run? And
don't worry, my dear. Half the fun is in the hunt.
Right. So that's going on.
Uncle Victor wakes up.
Right. Exactly. Oh, a runner. I knew he would run. I could tell by the way he smoked that cigar. All that
lips.
means. Right. And so
Jane's a lucky girl.
Huge kissers on that guy. Nobody calls him kissers anymore, Uncle Victor. Nobody ever did, except me.
I call them kissers.
Uncle Victor is, had seen a lot, been around, been in a lot of dark rooms, a lot of people. And so Trash runs down the hall. He's just trying to escape now. And we don't need to do every single one of these, but what I imagine is kind of a good chunk of the middle of this film is the cat and mouse game of Trash hiding in this giant mansion, and the dumbwaiter down to the basement, and then he's hiding in the radish cupboard, and they can't smell him because of all the radish.
I told Joffrey we need to get rid of that radish cupboard.
And he escapes that, and then he maybe climbs up into the library and hides up in the fireplace in the chimney, and
there's definitely like a Home Alone-y sort of element to this, which would, if you were watching this as a film, would make up the bulk of it, the second act.
I like that. He could find a book in the library. I don't know why they would have this being a bunch of vampires, but of like a vampire defense 101. And he's like, right. Okay. Wooden stakes, sunlight. Okay. Like breaks a chair and quietly tries to in the library and makes some makeshift weapons.
He's got a picture of the My Pillow guy on the cover of the book. And as he's trying to make the wooden stake, Uncle Victor like comes jumping
Yes.
down from a chandelier like he was
Yes.
hanging up there, and he's like, "Ha ha! I've got the drop on you like a bat." No one says that, Uncle Victor.
Right.
I must have
Exactly.
twisted my ankle on the fall. I guess I'm not. I wish I could be 300 again.
Right. There we go.
Like giving him enough time to like drop the stake and escape.
Right.
At which point, probably the scene that I want to see most that
Yeah.
takes us into sort of like the end of Act 2 is Trash finds himself down a mirrored hallway, like the Bruce Lee movie. What is that? Enter the Dragon.
Okay. Yeah.
Where it's full of mirrors, and he's in there, and he's like,
Ooh.
"Oh, thank God! Okay, like a big open space. It's well lit. It's just me."
Okay.
And he sees one of the other non-family like
Oh, yeah,
boyfriends
the-
in
the-
there
the
that's also
victims.
hiding.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh my God, how long have you been in here?" He's like, "It's just me, but I love this place because I can see him coming from anywhere." At which point you see blood
Oh, of
start
course.
squirting from his neck. And you get a flashback to the My Pillow Guy book where he's like, "Be
course.
careful, vampires don't have reflections." And he's like, "Oh my God, how do I get out
Right,
of
I
here?" And he
can't see them
grabs
at
a mirror and
all.
starts swinging around looking
Yes.
for invisible vampires in this room.
Oh, that's great.
Um,
Yes, snuck right up on him without even seeing him because of the mirrors. That's good, John. So now, right, that dude who was gonna be eaten anyway, he gets eaten, but that gives Trash a moment to be like, okay, fight with the mirrors. I'm out of here, and maybe he, it's Uncle Victor, and he cuts him or whatever, and Victor just licks his arm because again, you're not gonna hurt vampires unless you're doing it the right way, but you slow them down enough, and that's
To escape.
right, to escape. And again, that's Trash's loose plan is kind of like find Jane, hope she's not a vampire, help these other people if I can, get the heck out of here. And I think as he escapes that kind of room of mirrors and is hiding in a broom closet or whatever, and they can't sell him because of all the broom sales. He overhears, Edmund and Patricia talking about how like, oh, I can't believe it. This is the 10th one Jane has brought us, and she finally pulled an Aunt Marge. She finally said, not this one. And we had to lock her in the walk-in cooler. Jane's going soft in her 1,000th year here. Basically letting Trash and the audience know that Jane is a vampire, but also cares for Trash and is now imprisoned in this house, in the walk-in cooler in the kitchen. So now Trash's plan at least has a bit of a kind of a timeline to it for him, or checklist of like, all right, I got to find the kitchen, not get eaten on the way to the kitchen, get Jane out, hope she still likes me. It sounds like she might, because she's, not hunting me right now, and her
He's
family
probably got a
seems to
lot of
think-
like,
right. Yeah, you're
is
right.
Jane a vampire? Okay,
Right.
yep, I learned she is, but she is my wife. She did bring
Right,
me here,
right.
but I kind of feel like I owe it to check on her. Plus, I think she has the car keys. And there's, I think, a fun opportunity for like, okay, so she's in the walk-in cooler. He has to go through the kitchen. The chef's in there. He sees the chef. He doesn't know if the chef's a vampire or not.
Sure.
But so he's just like, hey, I'm Trash. I'm blood.
Right. Okay.
One. And two, did you get rid of those god-awful garlic potatoes?
Right.
And the chef's like, oh, yeah, they're out here in the regular fridge. We'll throw them away later. Don't worry about it. And he's like, all right, great. I need to get something out of the walk-in.
Yep.
I know she's in there, but I'll be careful.
I'll be fine.
And the chef's like, sure, whatever, dude. Your blood, do you?
Yes.
Just don't mess up my mise en place. I'm preparing a very special final course.
Right, for third dinner,
Yeah.
which is food again, but also some human parts mixed in. Like
Blood
that
gravy, turkey, a lot of leftovers, mixing
Right.
things up, a lot
Arms,
of soups.
legs. Right, soups. There's a foot in this soup. Yeah, it's third dinner.
Yeah, we call it parts and aspic. They love the 70s here.
Oh my gosh. And the kind of this is great. So it's setting up a nice kind of climax to Act 2 to shoot us right into the final act here, where we can get like, he gets to that cooler, Trash does, opens it up, Jane's in there, cold obviously, but also vampire, so not too bothered by it, but comes out shivering, and Trash is like, why didn't you tell me? Maybe he is like frustrated at first, and Jane's like, I know you were different. I wouldn't have brought you if I didn't have to, but you don't understand. It's it's part of the pact. It's, she gives a quick enough reason and blames it on kind of, I didn't have a choice, but I knew once I got you here, I might have a way of fending them off long enough, as long as you made it through the night, and you didn't make your decision, we'd be good for at least another year before this night returned, and they could accept someone else into the family, into the blood. Maybe it's something like that, some arbitrary old law that they also can use maybe to their advantage.
Not in the Vampire 101 by the Pillow
Definitely
Guy
not.
book.
No.
That was in the book next to it that said, "Help, I married a vampire."
Right, what do I do?
By Billy Mays.
Right, that's his legacy.
Those rules are outlined in there, but we give you enough in the film
we'll
to
give
feel like
enough.
you understand the rules behind the Thanksgiving feast.
All right, this is great. And so Trash frees Jane, and she's like, I know how to get out. Just stay with me. But unfortunately, it's a big house, but not too big. And maybe the chef does give him up, or again, it doesn't really matter, but they immediately become cornered, Jane and Trash does, by the rest of Jane's family. And it's that big pivotal moment, the climax of the movie, where it's like, well, Jane, are you here to help, or are you here to make another mistake like Aunt Marge did, and we banish you to Antarctica, or whatever threat they throw at her. And she steps in front of Trash and is like, no, this one's different. You said I could keep one. And, Dottie's like, not tonight. I smelled him before he even got into the house. He'll help me be young again. Maybe that's part of it, is Dottie, right, looks like a wrinkled old, shell of a human.
Maybe she even looks a little better now after biting on to
exactly
Marvin's girlfriend's thigh.
I'm Jane's sister. You don't want to know what happens if Jane stops eating.
She hasn't taken a little nibble?
Right.
Taking a little nibble on that sexy young flesh?
Right. I mean, none of your business what happens in the bedroom, but we have Band-Aids in the house, and I need to use them from time to time. But it's something I'm not okay with. Jane's a great communicator. And so, this is great. And so anyway, this back and forth happens, but Jane has picked Trash, and she's gonna after 1,000 years, finally kind of break with her family, do what she wants, which is exciting for Trash, but also they're clearly outnumbered, overwhelmed, and this really attempt at Jane trying to save him is almost just ceremonial, because she is immediately kind of tackled or out-battled by the rest of her family. And that leads us right into Act 3. We're going to finish this bad boy off with some fun callbacks. We'll see what happens.
Act 3. Things are heating up.
But let's get into it. So
Act 3 begins where Trash has just freed Jane from the walk-in cooler. The family's descending on them in the kitchen now. And maybe even Edmund, the patriarch of this family, can exert some vampire control over Jane. And say well, I command you to be still.
There we go.
At which point Jane stops moving and shielding Trash and just kind of falls limp.
Right.
And Trash realizes he's all alone.
Right. And I think maybe I would say Jane gets a couple, it's a good fight for maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and Trash hides maybe in the walk-in cooler, is looking around in a panic of what can I do? Is there a weapon? Is there a thing?
Where do you keep your steaks?
Exactly. You guys have a house full of steaks.
He sees a box that says steaks and his ribeyes. It's like, damn it.
Can I break the box apart? It's cardboard. Son of a gun. Maybe he does see something in that cooler in that walk-in. It's like, aha. And so Trash has maybe discovered it out as Jane is losing this fight, right? And then Edmund comes in and just shuts it all down of Jane, you cannot. And then
that was good vampire.
And she immediately freezes as he just kind of flicks his wrist. And she flies into the wall, unconscious in the corner, leaving Trash just kind of standing, panicked. Soiled himself multiple times at this point in the walk-in as Dottie and Victor and everyone else start licking their lips of usually with you're not good for Jane. We were happy to welcome you into the family, but that's gonna go a little bit differently than even Jane thought. you're going to become third dinner or fourth dinner, whatever number dinner we're on this point.
We're going to eat you and clean the plate. And Uncle Victor's like, in vampire, that means we will suck you dry.
Thanks for the clarification.
And Aunt Dottie's like, not like Janie does either.
Oh my gosh. And so Trash is terrified, also like scared that his wife may be hurt forever. He's just kind of freaking out. And they close in on him and like grab him. I'm saying like tie him down. Like this is over for Trash. Jane's in a heap on the floor. Joffrey's who knows where, but he probably can't be trusted. All the other little sacrificial people who were there dead. It's just Trash and a bunch of vampires, and he's out of luck. But or is he, John? Did he manage to find some ace in the hole?
Well, I think leading up and building into this scene, you might have like this is a little bit more of a ritualistic meal where like they were just feasting off of the girlfriend before.
Right.
They didn't care what happened to her, but the intent initially was to turn Trash. But like you said, Edmund has kind of changed his mind after seeing Jane kind of rebel against him. And he's like, now I will take from her the one. Can you do it in a vampire voice?
Now I will take from her the one thing she loves the most. We'll reset this clock with a new love or something.
That's beautiful. I would cast you as the voice of Edmund for sure.
Right. But yeah, that's I like this. And Edmund's plan is to get Trash out of the equation. Jane will forgive him eventually.
They're like dumping glasses of wine into his mouth. Aunt Dottie's loving this. She's like, just pour the whole bottle in his mouth, Victor. Make him drink it all and bubble it up through his mouth. They're like, this would be like the equivalent of like fattening up a pig.
Yes, exactly. So lubing them up to be sucked dry, so they all get hammered on Trash juice. But again, I think he has an ace. He has something up his sleeve, John. He's set himself up for it's his only move that he had to try to save his life. So what happens is they dive in and
so I think we won't reveal this secret move yet. We're gonna have the family covered him in vampire wine, which now you know is blood.
Right.
And so they can't really smell anything other than the raw blood and Trash's beautiful, virulent body. And they all just kind of like, they form a little vampire circle around him. They do whatever the opposite of a sign of the cross is.
Right.
And then they just like go heads down, thumbs up, right into Trevor. And you can hear like the... And maybe Aunt Dottie is even reaching down and kind of rubbing herself a little bit as this happens.
100%.
And Victor might be as well. They're weird. They're aunt and uncle. But it's all kind of happening at once. And it starts, the film actually starts to get dark to convey Trash losing consciousness until you hear, Harrison, what do you hear?
I think it's probably something to the effect of like, no, what's happening? And again, it's one after the other. Uncle Victor, Dottie, Edmund, Patricia, all the vampires kind of stand up straight, grabbing at their throat, their eyes, their head, all beginning to cough, maybe spitting up blood, and all freaking out. What is it? What is it, Edmund? What has he done to us? And then like maybe Dottie goes up and smells Trash's kind of passed out, drooling face, and she's like, the garlic.
Yes,
he's got us. He's got us.
At which point you get a beautiful cut back to Trevor seeing the box of steaks, getting upset that it's ribeyes, and then seeing his homemade mashed potato casserole chock full of garlic cloves.
Huge tray of casserole.
And the boy treats himself to a proper second dinner. Hasn't even cooled down all the way yet.
Just inhales that thing just with a huge soup ladle, shove it in his face while Jane's trying to save his life before she gets taken out. So he's mostly garlic and blue cheese and mashed potato at this point. But that was his hope, was like, this is my only move I have is that maybe garlic will stop him if I am a large percentage garlic. So let me get these whole cloves that I put in this mashed potatoes in me. It's like sneaking a gun inside a cake into a prison. Like, he's basically given himself tons of weapons inside his mashed potatoes without even realizing it, but now he does. Maybe it's a flashback to the My Pillow Guy book before he takes as he sees the casserole. So yeah, that's what he's done. That was his plan. It ended up working, and all these vampires kind of just drop down next to Trash as he's hammered on vampire blood wine, and he's lost a lot of blood, but he's alive. And in this movie, I think, unless we want to go a different way, but like, I think it's even safe to say that like he's full of so much garlic, he's not even a vampire yet. Like, it's whatever the garlic does. Granted, it's all left his body now because he's bled a lot.
They've taken a lot of his blood.
Right.
And he drank vampire blood, which doesn't get into the bloodstream. That's some science.
Yep.
But
of course.
But I think as the family, like, Mom Patricia, she's like, oh, so vulgar. Uncle Victor with his dying breath is like, you taste like a pizza joint. Trash.
Right.
And you see
Yelling
like you see a picture of it from the book, like as he's reading the book, and he's like, and garlic has special properties for vampires. If ingested, it'll kill them immediately. It kills the vampire special blood thing that happens that makes them vampires.
Perfect.
And as you're seeing that flashback, you're seeing Trash kind of cough and pick his head up with the demise of the family near him, just kind of like collapsing into nothingness but dust and the clothes they were wearing. Trash is waking up. The garlic has not only killed the vampires that tried to take all of his blood,
right,
but it's also killed the vampire maybe they were trying to make him a vampire, maybe they were just trying to drain him dry, but he seems to be vampire free upon waking up.
Heck yeah. And that, yeah, right, so he starts to wake up again, weak, but he's awake now, sitting up, seeing all these dead vampires, and it's Jane in the corner. Maybe she's starting to stir a little bit. Actually, now that Edmund's dead, she probably kind of pops awake and it's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Trash, how did you make it? Why am I looking at piles of dust inside my family members' clothes? Oh my God, what did you do? And they do a quick exchange of information and, like maybe start to limp out of the kitchen. Trash does with Jane. And, Jane's obviously got a lot of mixed feelings here, devastated that her family's dead, but maybe sees an opportunity with Trash, and kind of, because obviously she's still a vampire, and Trash and her are at a crossroads here where, like, even though he's half dead and doesn't want to think about it, he's got to kind of figure out, like, what am I doing with us? What are we? What are we going to become? Can this even work if I'm a garlic-filled human and you're a vampire?
You never bit me? You never vampired me?
Right, you never vampired me. What gives? And so she gets a chance to kind of repeat what she said a few times of just like, you were different. I didn't want this to be so, but I had no choice. I'm so glad you made it out of here tonight. And then maybe she says, but, and then stops talking, and Trash is like, what? Like, come on, tell me, after tonight, no secrets between us. Like, what are you worried about?
I think I
earned it. Right. And maybe she has an ultimatum for him now that all the family members are dead and their circumstances have changed. That means Jane's more free, but again, she's still a vampire. So the equation's changed a bit for Jane's future and Trash's future. They've got some decisions to make.
True. And even you got a little bit of not a wall break, but when Aunt Dottie said, like, I'm actually Jane's sister, you put those words into her mouth, you start to see that this isn't like a traditional family. These are just like vampires that have lived together. Maybe Joffrey even kind of nods at Jane as like the new heir to this coven. Like, Joffrey doesn't bat an eye. He's like, I serve the most senior vampire, and now that's you.
Right.
And Jane says, like, look, Trash, I meant it when I said you were special.
Yeah.
And I enjoy every bit of you, and I want to keep you exactly the way that you are. But in 60, maybe 70 years, you're going to be old, frail, and broken or dead.
Right.
If you allow me to convert you, we could live forever together.
Right.
And
it's beautiful. I love this. A beautiful, convincing soliloquy from Jane.
And of course, as you might expect, like Trash is a little bit like, I mean, I don't know if what I saw was the best interpretation of what I want to become. Like,
Right.
Your family or whoever these people are were kind of like monsters. They tried to kill me.
Yeah.
And Jane's like, look, I would be your family, but instead of growing old and dying and leaving me to this world, I'll be your family forever. Plus, vampires do.
And Trash is like, what?
At which point, Trash drops his tray of
Right.
mashed potatoes and garlic.
Right.
You hear the casserole dish break, and we fade to black,
Yep.
maybe with the sound of a vampire bite one last
Yes,
time.
exactly. I love it. She sells him. He at first was like, what about my casserole? I'll never be able to eat it again, right? If I'm a vampire? And she hits him with the old, how about butt stuff?
And if you've been watching the movie, you know Jane's made promises before that she didn't follow through with. But yeah, I think that's a fun way to wrap a vampire dinner second dinner sort of film.
That's right. It starts with vampire dessert or whatever, which is what Trash is going to have. It sounds like. So yes, this is great. Second dinner. Holy crow, we did it, John.
And what a great way to remind you all that sometimes
Right.
during holiday meals, it's best not to let your relatives get in the way of some butt stuff or,
That's
whatever it is you want to call second dinner.
That's right. Don't tell them how to live your life. You eat as many leftovers as you want. Do with it what you want. Never forget that. And we won't forget all that. At this point, in the real world, I've probably had at least 10 Thanksgiving sandwiches myself since Thanksgiving has ended. So I'll go look for my 11th. Well, we plan to do this again with at least 2 more times for the end of the year. Yeah, but we'll have more information on that next week. So tune back in. But that was second dinner. Thanks, Trash. Until then,
Peace.
punch.
Give me your blood.
Give me your blood.